Sorry, we don't do haircuts for your type of hair. Why do you act white? You look like Beyonce. Oh my god, look, I'm darker than you and you're half black. Where are you from? What's your mix? So what's your name?
Ebony.
Emily?
Ebony.
Emily?
Ebony.
Oh, sorry, Ebony. Ebony? Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't seen my face before, hello, my name is Ebony, and today I'm going to be talking about something called microaggressions. And this is following on from the kind of things I've been talking about on my channel before, about being mixed race. I did growing up mixed race in the UK, and I got some really great feedback from the blog post and the video that I did, so I thought I'd kind of continue talking about it. So if you don't know what a microaggression is, I'm just going to read the definition that I found online. Microaggression is a term used for brief and commonplace daily verbal, behavioural or environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory or negative prejudicial slights and insults towards any group, particularly culturally marginalised groups. So, as far as I'm aware, microaggressions are indirect or direct slurs or negative comments, whether they meant to be negative or not, or just ignorant comments that people kind of make, especially to marginalised groups of people. Those comments can be often brushed off. For most of my life, I've brushed off comments. They can be kind of just not really taken seriously, or not even known to be malicious or derogatory. So I wanted to make this video of some microaggressions I've received as a mixed race person. Every person's experience is going to be different depending on where you live, depending on where you're from, and depending on who you surround yourself with. But these are just some examples of things that I've heard, and since posting about it on my Instagram, on my blog and on my YouTube channel, I've had so many people say that they've heard exactly the same things, so I know that none of these are unique to me. So without further ado, let me get into the video. So we have microaggression number 1. Why are you so white? So I know that that is a Mean Girls quote, but I have genuinely heard this before. Being half black, you can't guarantee what you're gonna look like, and some people are a lot darker than me who are half black, and some people are even lighter than me who are half black. I am pretty pale in terms of being a mixed race person. Obviously I have black features and I have curly hair, but my skin colour itself is pretty pale, even though I am half Jamaican. And so this is something that I've heard quite a lot. A lot of people have questioned whether I am half black or if I'm actually a quarter, or oh, you don't look mixed race, as if there's some kind of like look that all mixed race people have, which we don't. So this is one that I heard a lot. Also, something that comes hand in hand with people asking me why I'm so pale. When I was younger, and I touched on this in my Growing Up Mixed Race in the UK video, which I will link up on the screen. My mum is Jamaican, as I was saying, and I didn't look like her in terms of my skin complexion, where my features do look like her, but my complexion didn't. So a lot of the time I would be questioned as to if I'm actually her daughter, if she's actually my mum, and sometimes people would include, oh, why is she so pale, kind of thing. Yeah, so that kind of came hand in hand. Oh my god, look, I'm darker than you and you're half black. So this one is really annoying and is something else I know that a lot of people have heard. This was one of my most replied to statements. When I shared this post on Instagram, you know, you have the option that you can like reshare. So many people reshared this specific post and this specific quote, which is when people hold their arm up next to yours and say, oh, look at my tan, or look at my skin, it's darker than yours and you're meant to be half black, as if you've let down your race for being paler than a Caucasian person with a tan. This one I've heard so many times, and it's one that I think I didn't hear as much as a kid, but more as like a teenager and adult, which is surprising, but it has got negative connotations, and it's rude, as if my skin is like the barometer to compare their blackness to. They're not black, so yeah, don't do that. Your hair is so frizzy. You look electrocuted. So this is one that I heard a lot growing up as a kid, because as I have mentioned before in previous videos and things, I grew up disliking my hair a lot, and I used to straighten it, put extensions in, I would relax my hair with chemicals, I dyed my hair. I grew up with a really negative impression of my hair, and a lot of this stemmed from not only not seeing representation on TV, so that's in media, on TV adverts and films, but I also got this comment a lot, which is that my hair was frizzy, and I was bullied a lot, and one of the comments that I heard was that my hair was frizzy. So yes, that all added up to me disliking my hair for a very long time. And one comment that was quite universal that I found was that, like, you look electrocuted. I think there's a lot I could talk about in terms of hair, mixed race hair, curly hair, afro hair. I made a whole short film about my hair, which I'll also link up there if you want to see. But yes, I think it's really damaging to tell someone with curly or afro hair that their hair is, and then insert negative connotations. So whether it looks like a lion. This goes also for white people who have their hair curled, and then they comb out the curls, and then they declare on their Instagram, oh my god, my hair's so messy, oh my god, look at my hair, it's so messy, oh my god, I look like a lion. And like kind of put a really negative spin on hair that's not straight or smooth. That is annoying, and it added up to me hating my hair and damaging it for most of my life, so thanks. Microaggression number 4. Why do you have that accent? Are you like posh? So in my journey through life, I went to many different schools, and I've been to a really fancy school on a scholarship where we learnt Latin, and we had a swimming pool and a rugby pitch. And then immediately after that school, I attended a state school, which is a public school, where I really stuck out because of my accent. And I was teased quite a lot growing up for my accent, being quite well spoken or posh or whatever. And I was very self-conscious about it, although it didn't bother me as much because it wasn't something about my appearance, which is interesting. But I did get this a lot, and I know a lot of black people get this a lot. So, like, even to the point of, oh, you're so well spoken. And a lot of my friends who are not black but not white, so a person of colour, they've heard things like, oh, you're so well spoken, or your English is so good, as if they weren't born in London, you know? So assuming someone who is not white should have an accent, I think is wrong, and it just shows ignorance. It shows that you have a really small idea of who I can be, and that's wrong and problematic. Microaggression number 5. Why do you act white? So this one kind of leads off of the accent one, which is why do you act so white? So not only why do you sound white, but why do you act white? So for example, a black person going to have a nice afternoon tea in the middle of central London, maybe outside of Buckingham Palace, just a stone's throw away from Her Majesty herself. The idea that black people should kind of adhere to stereotypes that the media that society has invented is really wrong. The idea that a black person can't love gardening, I say that because I just recently found a really good Instagram page called Black Girls Gardening, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, kind of trying to smash stereotypes, you know, things that are generally associated with being posh or being white, and I really, really hate that. Just don't stereotype people. Microaggression number 6. Sorry, we don't do haircuts for your type of hair. So this is a stereotype that I've had a lot of issues with, and I mentioned this a lot in the short film I made about my hair, but it is really rare to be able to walk into any hairdresser just like a white male could and just get a haircut for 20 quid in like about half an hour, you know, max. It's really, really difficult to find that because not every hairdresser has to be trained in curly or afro textured hair. It is not a necessity because the default is Caucasian hair, just like the default for skin plasters is nude or like you know, for nude white skin. The same with ballet slippers. And so when I go into hairdressers, a lot of the time I'm turned away, and I have been turned away in the past. So yes, that is a difficult one, and I wish more people would be trained in curly hair. Like, it only makes sense as a smart business person, because you'd have way more customers. Microaggression number 7. If you just straightened your hair, you'd look pretty much white. So another hair one that I heard a few times growing up, which is, why don't you straighten your hair and then you could pass as white? And this is actually a pretty bad example of racism, and it's kind of suggesting that I would be better off or better than who I am now if I looked white. I also experienced, when I was a teenager, the idea of straightening my hair became a thing. This is where it all started, when I was about 15, and the reaction to my hair being straight was very much positive, as in, you look better than you did before, which again contributed to my hatred towards my curly hair. So yeah, it's not kind, it's not nice, and I wouldn't say that to anyone. Just top tip, don't say that. I think the idea that I already have quite a light skin tone, so I'm already in a place of privilege in terms of the scope of being black and the scope of even being mixed race. I'm pretty pale, and paleness equals privilege. In terms of like colorism and in terms of racism in society, I am less likely to experience racism than someone who is dark-skinned black, and that is an issue within itself. So it's actually really insulting to not only to me but to darker-skinned black people to insinuate that I should straighten my hair and pass as white. It's already something that a lot of mixed race people struggle with. The idea of kind of being white passing, or not quite black or not quite white, being very in the middle. It's a whole can of worms that comes with this conversation, but yeah, that's just an example, don't say it. Microaggression number 8. You look like Beyonce. As much as I hate to admit that I do not look like Beyonce, I don't. We both have like curly hair, like longish, big curly hair, and that's about it. I've been told I look like Beyonce before. I don't think there are that many celebrities I look like. If you think I look like a celebrity, please comment them below. I've actually heard Ella May. I've heard that one before. I mean, maybe I do look like her a little bit, but it's very, very common, not only for people to tell me that I look like a celebrity who happens to be mixed race or light-skinned black, but I've also heard and seen a lot of celebrities being mistaken for each other when they are a celebrity who is black. It's just rude, and it kind of insinuates that you think we all look the same, and that's not the case. I think that also feeds into stereotypes. So if someone thinks I look like Beyonce, they might assume that I act and behave like Beyonce and can sing like Beyonce, when I can't. That's another kind of under the surface bit of racism there for you. Microaggression number 9. And where are you from? What's your mix?
I'm half Jamaican and half Dutch.
Nice mix. Now this one is one that I've actually heard a lot of the time from black people, black men to be specific, and I've also had the question asked to me from white people, but in that clip that I just recorded, an example is an example that I would have heard from someone who is black and most likely male, and that is to know, they want to know where I'm from, so what my mix is, and if anyone's wondering, I'm half Jamaican and half Dutch. And when people hear that mix, oh, Jamaican and Dutch, oh, I've never heard that one before, almost as if I'm like a strange new flavour of Fanta or a strange new Pringles flavour, you know, like, oh, I've never heard that flavour before, I've never had that, and it makes me feel like othered. I feel othered, and I feel exoticized, I think that's how you say it. Like, I feel like I'm an exotic new breed that's like, I don't know, I hate when my kind of personality is encompassed with my race, or the idea that I'm mysterious. I'm just me, and just because you can't look at me and tell exactly where I'm from, I think that makes some people uncomfortable or makes people ask questions, and yeah, it's just a bit icky for me. I don't like it. And finally, microaggression number 10. So what's your name?
Ebony.
Emily?
Ebony.
Emily?
Ebony.
Oh, sorry, Ebony. Ebony? Now this one is sometimes easy to laugh off, but when you think about it a bit too deep, you realise actually it's a bit problematic, and that is when my name is pronounced wrong or mistaken for a white or traditionally Caucasian name. So my name is Ebony and my name has African origins, and so I don't think it's heard very often, and so a lot of the time, especially if I'm in a loud environment, but even when I'm in a quiet environment, I will say my name is Ebony, and the person who hears me, usually they're white, will kind of say it back to me as Emily. This happens to me literally about 5 times a year, all the time, all the time. This must be really common. Please let me know in the comments if you have one of those names where you tell someone your name and then they say it back to you, but like make it Caucasian. Can't think of any off the top of my head, but Ebony Emily is the one I always get. And even to the point where I start to now, if someone in the room is called Emily and their name is called, I sometimes turn and it's like built in me now to do that. But yeah, it's like a subtle bit of racism where obviously the person hasn't heard my name before, or they're not listening properly, and so yeah, that's basically that one. So that is it for today's video. I really hope you learned something from watching. I also want to let anyone know who's watching and maybe related to something. You're not alone. We're gonna, you know, change the world one step at a time. But I just thought this word microaggression has been kind of floating around social media recently, and so I thought I would, you know, explain what it meant and talk about my direct experiences, so that if you were still unsure of what it meant even after hearing the definition, if you maybe have heard one of these things being said to someone or you've said it yourself. I know that one of the people who follow me, when I showed some examples on my Instagram, she actually commented saying, I've actually said that to someone before and I wasn't aware. So if that's you, like, thank you for getting this far. It's great that you watched all the way to the end. Let me know in the comments anything that you've heard as an example of a microaggression. Let's educate each other, and subscribe for more videos from me. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!